John Clayton at the Washington Post has the 10 biggest offseason roster storylines. I have a feeling that one of his offseason roster storylines has to do with Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles. Will they end up trading him? We'll get that. We'll get other big roster decisions because, as John will tell us, there is a lot of possible quarterbacks that could be moving. But are they the biggest roster decisions in the NFL? Let's bring in NFL insider John Clayton from the Washington Post as he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. As the offseason is here, the Super Bowl is in the books. John, now did you get to watch the Super Bowl?
I did. Yeah, it was strange. The Cox, which has a channel, the CBS affiliate here, Cairo, didn't get a deal done until late Saturday night, and so I got texted in the morning that they did come back on, so I was able to watch it. But fortunately, after reaching out on Twitter and having over 1,000 direct messages, that somebody actually came over to the house with an antenna and installed it, which was a lot more complicated with that antenna than I anticipated. So thank heavens, because then I was covered, and I'll be covered because I'm sure we had the NBC affiliate out in November on DirecTV, this one for a week in the CBS, and I'm sure the next one's going to be Fox, and then probably the next one will be the ABC affiliate.
That is a bizarre story. When I saw you tweet that, I almost thought like you got hacked.
No, it wasn't hacked. Although it was funny because again, some of the people who tweeted during the week, because again, the Cox is all through the country. It's one of the biggest TV station owners in the country. I guess on DirecTV they had a crash down right at the start of the Super Bowl, and it crashed like 3 times. And so this one person had to go ahead and get the CBS All Access and pay for that.
Jeez.
And then it came back. But again, it was just crazy. But again, you can see that DirecTV has issues.
All right. The Eagles have issues, and this is almost unprecedented, but it seems like it's becoming in vogue. I have a lot of dead cap. I don't mind. Let's just trade them. The Rams did it. Will the Eagles follow suit, John? It's one of the big offseason questions that you wrote about at the Washington Post. Will the Eagles – it seemed inevitable on Saturday. It seems like it still is going to happen. What is your feeling on a Eagles-Carson Wentz divorce?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. Again, I think you can see the strategy that Howie Roseman's trying to make sure he gets the best value for him. And you know that Chicago and Indy are going to be the biggest bidders. And so you take that all into account and say, okay, how much can you really get for him? I'm sure that, ideally you're going to be 2 first-rounders, but absolutely it's not going to happen. And so in the likelihood, maybe it could be, a 1 and a 5 or something like that. That could work, but you can see the strategies going on right now, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happens reasonably quick.
So at this stage, I want to get your opinion because, as you wrote in your article, Deshaun Watson, one of the other quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, does this put the Eagles in a tough spot? I mean, the fact that there's so many quarterbacks that are available.
Not really. I mean, because again, Watson's not available. He's got a no-trade clause in his contract, and I still think they won't trade him. They're certainly not going to trade Aaron Rodgers, although I think what he's going to do, he's going to try to make it tough on them because what he'll be trying to do is try to get a contract extension to see if he can get a little bit more job security because, again, he was the MVP. He threw 48 touchdown passes, and I'm sure he doesn't like having Jordan Love around. And so it's because, again, he knows that's going to shorten his career in Green Bay because at some point, if Love's there, then they have to go to him at some point. So they didn't waste that first-round pick and look like a bunch of idiots. And so now what I have to think that the next strategy is that you ask for a contract extension, try to get a little bit more money, and then put them in a position where they have to trade Jordan Love.
Have you seen anything like this before? You win the Super Bowl, coach is fired 3 years later after making the playoffs in 2 of those years. You're trading Wentz with this big cap hit. You hire Nick Sirianni, younger coach, looks nervous. Jalen Hurts in the second round. I mean, what is going on here? Have you seen a downfall like this happen so quickly?
Well, I mean, we've seen some of this because, again, it's like we saw Arizona go to the Super Bowl, and after a few years, they fired their coach. We've seen now it happened in Atlanta that Dan Quinn goes to the Super Bowl. They have a little bit of a downer after blowing a 25-point lead in the second half against New England. Now he's out of there. But again, to have this and the quarterbacks, and then, of course, you just saw with the Rams, because 2 years ago they went and lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Now Sean McVay got down on Jared Goff and trades him, and then they're already down 8 starters on defense since 2018, and they very well could lose 2 more starters, because I think they might have to cut Michael Brockers. They're probably going to lose Leonard Floyd. Their safety, John Johnson, he's going to. So basically, all of a sudden, here it is 2 years after the Super Bowl, and they may end up with only Jalen Ramsey, who wasn't with the team, Aaron Donald, who's with the team, and hardly anything else.
We're talking with John Clayton from the Washington Post, his 10 offseason storylines right now at the Washington Post. Let me get your thoughts on the Dak Prescott situation in Dallas. Is it a slam dunk that he would be back there?
You'd have to think so, because I don't think Jerry can live with the fans and letting Dak go, and he likes Dak, but the problem is, how can you keep him? Because the one thing is, if you franchise him, it's 37-7. Jerry's adamant about having a 5-year deal, and Dak is adamant about having a 4-year deal. And so, they've offered $35 million a year on a 5-year deal, and so far it's not working. And you'd have to think at this stage he may have to go up to the $38 million to get this thing done. They have time, but they can't afford to lose him, because if they do, he is the best player in free agency. So at some point they need to strike a deal.
What will the Jets do with Sam Darnold? They do have that second pick, Ohio State's Justin Fields is there, an upgrade over Darnold. What do you think what they should do there?
Well, it's a simple one, but it's also a tough one too, because the feeling I get out of the Jets is that they're not sold on Justin Fields, and they're also not totally sold on Zach Davis. I think they might like Zach Davis a little bit more than Fields, but it's almost, if that's the case, they can maybe go position tight tackle or wide receiver at number 2, or they could trade down a little bit, getting a little bit more value and then taking a quarterback there. So they do have options, but again, you're going to have interest from San Francisco on Darnold, certainly Indy if they can't get Carson Wentz, probably Washington and Carolina. So there's going to be enough teams that are going to be interested, but in the end, it's like you kind of get the feeling that he might be traded, but there still might be some caution, because again, you've got to have a quarterback, and I don't know if they want to really go in with a new coach and a young quarterback.
That's one to me. The Jets is so interesting, John, because of where they sit in the draft, right? They're going to get their phone's going to ring, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because again, it's like, and again, what I hear, they don't at the moment think that Fields and Davis are really the second pick in the draft, the second best players in the draft, and so. But you have other teams. Atlanta might want to move up because it eventually replaced Matt Ryan. You have other teams wanting to move up, and so Carolina, I think they would probably want to move up. So you have the ability to drop down a little bit and then hope to get that next quarterback, whether it's going to be Fields or Davis, whoever isn't drafted.
Give us your thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater and that whole situation. I was a little surprised to hear that they were in on the Stafford stuff. Bridgewater, I thought, played pretty well out there.
Yeah, but of course, they only won 5 games, and they're pretty loaded on offense. Now, I know they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, but Mike Davis did a pretty good job running the football, and they've got really good receivers, and so Curtis Samuels is real good, and they've got speed and all those different things, and Matt Rule now is more in charge of things, even though they did hire a new general manager, and you kind of get the feeling that he's not all in the total corner of Teddy Bridgewater, even though they gave him $21 million a year. But when you find out that they ended up offering the 8th pick draft, a 5th round pick, and Bridgewater, then you have to think, well, maybe Matt isn't completely in Bridgewater's corner, because we just watched that with what happened with Jared Goff and Sean McVay.
So John Clayton's with us from the Washington Post. He's got a great article up on the offseason, especially with all these quarterbacks. Watson, Rodgers, you don't think either of those guys will get moved. You're in Seattle. What's this news going on with Wilson out there? Is there anything to the fact that he's unhappy?
I think he's just frustrated. I mean, it's funny because sometimes Russell can drive management crazy, particularly when he starts to go on the air. Again, he's so professional in his normal press conferences, but then he gets to the off season and he starts to whine a little bit when things aren't perfect and he didn't get back to the Super Bowl. And like for example, here it is. He's sitting next to Roger Goodell with Sierra, and he's watching basically what happened to him in the loss to the Rams in the playoffs. The Rams went cover 2, cover 4. You had 41.1% cover 2 by Tampa against Kansas City and 25% cover 4. And so they 2/3 of their defense took away the deep pass, and Patrick Mahomes with the bad blocking wasn't able to do it. Now, I don't think Russell's helping himself when he blasted an offensive line that was actually better than last year and is winning 66% of its blocks on passing plays because, again, they got a good signing in Brandon Shell. They got one of the better rookie guards in Damian Lewis, but he's right in the standpoint. He's like, he got sacked 47 times this year and over 400 in his career. I mean, he is tired of doing it, but then also he has to take the responsibility that, hey, you weren't beating the cover 2 and you're holding on to the ball for 2.8, sometimes 3.2 seconds.
John, real quick before we let you roll, you mentioned Indianapolis and Chicago. They seem to be the two teams around Wentz. If there was a team that we haven't heard, is there someone that you think makes sense that could maybe be that quote-unquote mystery team?
I mean, it could be San Francisco, but I don't think that they can overbid or all that. I mean, you kind of get the feeling that how he's doing is he's playing Indy off Chicago. Chris Ballard's going to go to a certain point. You've seen Ryan Pace. He's went big on Khalil Mack, and so he might get a little bit more. You still have to look at Carolina. I mean, a sleeper could be Washington, but there's no way that the Eagles trade him in the division. I know they did it with Donovan McNabb, but that was toward the end of Donovan McNabb's career, not where you're really still in that startup phase with Carson Wentz. So, but I do think something's going to happen. But, right now, I think that Chicago might gamble a little bit more and pay more than Indy. And if that's the case, would they want to take Nick Foles back, too, in the deal?
That would be interesting. All right, we'll keep our eye on that. You guys should keep your eye on John Clayton. Check out his Washington Post piece, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. John, it's always great to catch up with you. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.